Welcome everyone to Gentleman and Scholar. I'm Joshua Houston. I'm joined today by Cody Boston, who is a minister for the Las Casas Church of Christ here in Murfreesboro, and well, I guess technically Las Casas, but in Rutherford County.
Technically Las Casas, but it's basically Murfreesboro.
Yeah. So you were there for a couple of years.
I was there for 2 years as a youth minister, and then my wife and I moved to Pensacola, and I preached for 2 years in Pensacola for the Scenic Hills Church of Christ. We were there 2 years, and then Las Casas approached me about an opportunity to come back, and I guess I'm kind of like the associate / outreach minister, but I still preach just as much as I was preaching. I share the pulpit now with Brother Chuck Mullins. He usually does the mornings, and I do the evenings, and then try to focus on outreach. So we've been back since the end of 2018. So
I always had a problem with people trying to make titles to ministry.
I know.
Because people ask me, the only place where it says associate minister on my job description here is on my contract. The sign on my door says minister. The sign on the church building says minister. In the bulletin it says minister. Everything says minister except for that. And so I just tell people that I'm a minister. Like youth ministry, you minister to people. If you're an associate minister, you minister to people. If you're an outreach minister, you minister to people. So I'm not necessarily like confused about your job title because I know what you do. I just don't know how to put it into words.
Yeah, it's basically, it's like you said, I'm one of the ministers, but where they kind of want me to focus is community outreach, evangelism, and those kind of things. Chuck has his own business that he started years ago, building homes, and so he does that throughout the week, and he preaches on Sunday mornings and teaches Bible class, and right now he's doing some things with the youth as we don't have a youth minister, so he's got that all going on throughout the week. So my responsibility through the week is to be the one that does visiting and all that, and Chuck does when he can, as his schedule allows, but they try to, one reason it was important when I came back to kind of give it that label, if you will, was because since I was the youth minister before, when I was coming back, they wanted there to be a clear distinction that I wasn't coming back to be the youth minister again, for me and for the youth, that we all needed that reminder that, yes, Cody's coming back, but it's a different role, and so that kind of helped people see that. Now, I usually tell people I'm one of the ministers at Las Casas.
Yeah,
but,
right. Well, now your role is kind of interesting because people think of ministry as like a totem pole, right?
Yes.
So you've got the main guy, and then you've got the associate, and then you've got the youth minister. Youth minister is always on the bottom, right? Yeah. If Chris Elrod is listening to this, he's going to be a guest on here in the future. So we'll pick at everybody else when he comes on. But for now, we'll pick on the youth ministers. But you're like you're the only one that has office hours at Las Casas, like posted office hours.
Yes.
So say a little bit about that, because Chuck doesn't have posted office hours. Yeah.
So Chuck has a study at his home, and usually he works through the week on his lessons, and then Saturday is when he has a lot of time to pour into and kind of tweak what he needs to tweak, and all those kind of things. So throughout the week, since he's got his other business, I'm the only minister. Now our secretary is there Tuesday through Friday, and I'm there Monday through Thursday. So we're the only two in the building most of the week, and so that's why that again, that's kind of where my job description came into play. Was I need to be the one that's reaching out and doing visiting. If a member suddenly is at the hospital, I'm the one that can immediately go. Chuck might have to. He'll be there as soon as he can, but they needed someone that could be there then, kind of deal. So that's why it's important. And before, when I was the youth minister, I would help out in those areas as I could. I was the youth minister. I say that with quotation marks. I worked with the youth, but I did help out in those other areas because it's a very unique situation and dynamic that we kind of have at Las Casas, and it's been very beneficial for us. It's really worked. When I was here before, it worked, and now that I'm back, it really works. The kind of the tag team that we have going on with me and Chuck. So we kind of can complement each other and help each other, and again, I'm there if people need someone right then, and if not, then Chuck can be there when they need Chuck, kind of deal. So But yeah, it's a different setup than most places, I
Right.
think.
Yeah. Yeah. When I first came here, the elders here have been a little more lenient on us, especially with what's going on now with
Yeah.
COVID-19. But when I first came, I was part-time, so I was here 4 out of the 5 weekdays, and the one weekday that I had off, I was in class. So that I was able to do that, and then I had Saturday, and which Sunday is a work day for
Yeah,
us.
Sunday's not-
People don't realize
it's not
that,
an
but
off day.
Sunday is not an off day. So I had Saturday. When I moved full time, it was 5 days a week, and it still is. It's 5 days a week, and then I work on Saturdays doing the auction stuff, and then Sunday, of course, is a work day. So let me ask you this: on an average week, and I know our average week has become really different since everything. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. Average week, take me through your week.
So I right now usually I'm at the office 9 to 5. Now my elders, we kind of had a layout when they hired me of when they would like me to be there. But one of the great things about my relationship with these elders is even when I was a youth minister, it's never been a micromanaging relationship or a I'm looking over your shoulder relationship. But it's been, we kind of want you to be working in the ministry field from this time frame. And so for me, especially now with 2 6-month-old babies, it's a lot easier to get, if I needed to work from home, they would understand. But it's a lot easier for me to get my things done I need to get done if I'm in the office, because it's very difficult with children. So, but usually Mondays is kind of a catch-up day over the weekend, kind of go through my emails, because I don't generally check my email all weekend unless I'll see what's coming in, and if I see that it's a message, an email from our church secretary or something about maybe one of our members, or I'll read those kind of emails, but generally I don't check my email through the weekend. I try to take it off and enjoy it. So Mondays kind of like go back through all my emails, that kind of thing. And then it's really looking at what do I want to get done this week? What do I need to get done this week? And I'm not with our setup now and how we're having to do things. I'm not teaching as many Bible classes as I was teaching.
Right.
I'm still, I'm still doing just as much. It's just kind of in a different way. We have Wednesday devotionals that we post since we're not meeting right now. Well, regularly the men of the congregation do those, and I rarely do. Now I'm doing them every week. So I might not be teaching a Wednesday Bible class, but I'm doing that invitation that we typically call it, or the devotional thought for every Wednesday. So I kind of try to get my bearings on what do I want to talk about on Wednesday and that kind of thing. And then, for my sermon, I kind of look at where am I going for Sunday's sermon and what do I need to do. And I try to break it up throughout days of the week. I don't necessarily try to do everything, on one day. But I wrote down on a piece of paper, and I'm trying to study Greek again. There's a couple of what I would probably label hot topics that I want to study. And so what I'm trying to do now, it's funny you ask a typical week, I'm actually changing it up. I'm in the process of changing it up. I made a list the other day. I've got 9 to 5, and I broke it up by hours, and then threw in my lunch break. And I was like, okay, so I need a certain amount of time for sermon prep. I need a certain amount of time for class prep, devotional for Wednesday prep, and then future studies. What am I going to preach about in the future? And trying to plan that. Typically, I try to plan my sermons a year in advance.
Yeah, I do too.
Didn't happen this time. We had babies at the end of 2019, and so the last couple months of 2019 were insane, and then this all hit, and so I'm not planned out for this year completely. I'm working on some series ideas, so I'm good probably for another month, but I want to, now that this is kind of giving me a little extra study time, I'm wanting to plan the rest of the year by the end of this month. So that's what I'm in the process of now. But typically in a week, I basically try to spread out what I need to get done and spread it out over those days.
Right.
So that I don't overwhelm myself in any area. I schedule a certain amount of time a day to just read. I've got a certain amount of time scheduled for Greek. And that usually, what I'm trying to do now is, I say I'm there 9 to 5. I want to get there at 8, and from 8 to 9, have as my time for studying Greek and trying to catch back up to that. I don't know if that answers your question.
Oh, yeah.
But
Well, I learned very quickly early on that if you plan your week very rigidly, something will happen.
Every time.
Every time.
Yeah.
Like, I am waiting for the day. I tell our secretary this all the time because, like I told you just a minute ago, my wife and her mother are in Florida right now. Well, originally, my wife wanted me to go to Florida with her. And with all that's been going on, I was like, no, I don't think I can get away, and I don't have the vacation time to put in and whatnot. Honestly, I just hate the beach, so I didn't want to go. But I'm waiting for the day where we have those 2 or 3 kids, we have a big trip planned, you get halfway there, and you get the call. Every preacher knows the call. Someone's died, you got to come preach the funeral.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's happened to you or not, but
it was close. It was kind of like that, but I don't want to say it worked out because that's a bad way to phrase it in that kind of scenario.
Yeah.
But it was a situation where we were leaving early the next morning, and we weren't too far away. It was when we were in Pensacola, and one of our members had slipped and fallen, and suffered an injury, an older gentleman, and ended up passing away. Well, it was late at night. I was coming back the next morning, and so we just left early that morning. So it wasn't kind of a we were on the way situation, but I've heard many stories.
oh yeah,
I think I've heard Dale talk about it several times, Dale Jenkins and others, about you're on a trip or you're on your way to go somewhere and you got to come back. You know,
we had this instance where our pulpit minister, Ron, was in New Zealand for like a month doing gospel meetings and mission work and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was the one here to preach and everything. And this has been a couple of years ago. And we had a very dear lady die who had stipulated in her will that Ron was to preach her funeral. And of course, he, like in that scenario, he can't come back.
Yeah.
So I preached it. And that was the first funeral that I ever preached by myself. So that was interesting to say the least. Now, you've said several times so far about your babies.
Yes.
So you are the proud father of 2 twins.
Yep, a boy and a girl, Liam and Ella. They will be 7 months old in 3 days on the 18th.
Well, there you go. All right, so big question now. How has fatherhood impacted your schedule in ministry and the things that you do? I know it has.
Yes. So I kind of made a little comment on it earlier. And I heard Dale Jenkins say something recently, and I reference him because I listen to some different podcasts he does and different videos he does, and it was either that or one of his blogs or something where he talked about how, he always thought he was a procrastinator, but what he's come to realize is in ministry, he never stops working on his sermon. So even when he feels completely done with it, it's like he's still working on it in his mind, and I think a little bit of that is also true for me. I struggle with procrastination or with organization, and so that's why trying to give myself this time management type of schedule for me is so important, so that I don't. Because before, if I would work in the office. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I wouldn't work, but maybe I would work on a few things, and then this over here that I really needed to have done wasn't done yet, and so, or I didn't think it was done yet. So I would Saturday night try to tweak things and do things. Now I really want it completely done before Saturday night, because when I go home, it's very difficult to get away to try to study. And they're typically in bed between 8 and 9 o'clock, depending on when they are ready for us to let us lay them down. But so you're already laying them down late. I'm a night owl anyways, but I'm trying to change that to be a morning person for study purposes and some things I'm sure we'll talk about here in a little bit. But in one way, I would say it's impacted me in that, when I'm home, I don't really have the extra time right now that I had before. That if things came up and I had to go visit people, which right now that's different, but before, and I couldn't get this thing done, I had time at home to knock it out, to make sure it was completed the way it should be done. But now I'm like, okay, I need to get this stuff completely done. So if I need to stay later, I stay later, because going home is difficult to try to do that right now with them being so young. So
yeah. Okay, so you mentioned about Dale Jenkins and all the stuff that they do. I just want to give a quick plug here for them real quick. The Jenkins Institute, if anyone's listening and not familiar with them, which I'm sure 90% of those listening probably will be, because if you are a member, and I know we have other people besides members of the Churches of Christ, but if you are a member of the Church of Christ, you are probably very familiar with Dale and Jeff Jenkins and their work with the Jenkins Institute. If you're not, I hope that you'll go on their website, Jenkins Institute, and you can just Google that. It'll pop right up, and they're doing some great work there. Cody, let me ask you this, because this is something I want to ask. Two questions that kind of go together.
Okay.
So first of all, our podcast today is on time management. I don't know if I've made that clear. Hopefully we have, but time management is something that, time is a commodity that you never get back. And I've often heard it said, if you want a business to fail, stop that business from getting money, because money is the essential commodity of business. If you want something personal, like a relationship or something like that, to fail, stop spending time or waste time some way instead of doing what you need to be doing, because time is the essential commodity that you never get back. So, in your opinion, thinking ministry related, what is in your opinion one of the biggest wastes of time that ministers get involved in?
Social media. Elaborate.
I agree, but elaborate.
I would say there's a couple of areas in social media, and I have Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. I don't use them as much. Usually, my Twitter is to just keep up with sports and news on the teams that I follow and am interested in, and Facebook is used to stay connected more to our members. Now, our church has those accounts, and I run those accounts, so.
Right.
Normally, I try to post things through those accounts for the church, but I think it's very easy to go down a rabbit hole of things, and you start just scrolling your news feed, and you keep going and going, and even though you've updated it 7 times, it's just kind of you keep updating it. And then I think now there's a lot of hot issues right now in our country. A lot of very sensitive topics and topics that people are passionate about, whether it's race related, whether it's mask related, whether it's all these other things, COVID related. Should we have services? Should we not? All these things that I've noticed that as ministers, there's a lot that have a ton of time to write a ton of comments and say things. I've even noticed recently some ministers that have apologized and said that they're kind of going off of social media for a while because they've let it get the better of them.
Mm-hmm.
I think one way that we waste time is we get on there and we start trying to have all these discussions and we write all these comments to everything, when we should, in the office, trying to be focusing on what we're giving to our congregation. And another way is just we waste time not just in the comments and stuff, but just in scrolling and someone I've not talked to in a while has posted pictures, and you go look at their pictures, and there's nothing wrong with that. But then you start kind of going through and you trail off, and I don't know about you, but when it's difficult to get in the frame of mind to prepare adequately for a sermon or a class. And when I'm there, and my phone dings or my computer dings, and it's just a quick look, and I notice it's something from Facebook or Twitter, whatever, it's very difficult if I allow myself to go there to get back in that mindset.
Yeah.
And even, it could take 30 minutes or more. And even if it takes 30 minutes or 20 to 30 minutes, that's 20 to 30 minutes of time that I don't have. And now one thing for me is I can't stay as late as I used to finish things up,
mm-hmm.
because my wife needs me to come home and allow her to finish her time on her job when the babysitter leaves.
Yeah.
So, those little things on Facebook, I just feel like we spend too much time there saying things and commenting and doing all this stuff. Not that those things are wrong, they can be wrong, but not everyone uses them wrong. But when it's taking away from our time and preparation, the effort we're giving to the people that we're here to minister to, whether it's in lesson prep, phone calls, emails, whatever, however we're staying in touch right now, I feel like we're doing a disservice to the congregation we serve when we're giving Facebook our attention when we're on the clock, so to speak. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. I think one of the worst things that has happened to ministry is having a social media account. And I'm like you. I have one of all except Twitter. I can't stand Twitter, but that's just me. And now Facebook is getting that way because I read recently every 4th post, and this is true, I looked at it, every 4th post is an ad. So all you're doing is just getting propaganda and advertisements all day long, and then we turn into keyboard warriors because we can't agree with people anymore, or we can't disagree with people anymore. So we turn into keyboard warriors. I had a sermon not too long ago on this.
Was it titled Keyboard Warriors?
No.
Oh, that would have been awesome.
No, it was titled Mind Your Business.
Just as good.
It was from 1 Thessalonians 4:11, where Paul says, "Make it your life's ambition to live quietly."
Yeah.
And I was like, y'all, just hush your mouth.
Yeah.
People can know that you're a Christian by the way that you live. But I'm like you. The church has social media accounts, and of course, what we're doing now is social media related because we're making content and we're posting it to hopefully for people to see. And I love that. I run Coffee in Christ. I do the Salem Creek YouTube page and Facebook page and Instagram and all of that stuff. So that's a good one. I think for me, in my opinion, the biggest waste of time that I see preachers doing is they come to the office, assuming they have one, and they get so caught up in doing things that they should have done, outside of office hours. So like let's say for us here, my office hours that are posted, I don't keep these as well, but it's from 8 to 2. Well, I can come into the office, and if I need to, if I need to run errands and I have kind of a light day, I can just as easily go over here to Walmart across the street, run my errands, and be done, and not even be in the office. But to me, that's like stealing from the company, because and we're not talking about this in business terms, but
right.
They pay me to be here to do work, and I see a lot of preachers, who do that. So let's talk a little bit about COVID and how things have changed with ministry, because coming off of this discussion of social media, you and I and several others have turned into professional televangelists.
Yeah, that's right.
I make a Wednesday evening class that I post. I record it Tuesday mornings, and I post it Wednesday evenings at around 5 o'clock or whatever. And I was doing that anyways. I was recording my Bible class live and then posting it to YouTube on Coffee in Christ so people could study with us. So I was doing that anyways, but now it's not live. It feels more canned, and we were there for the longest time recording sermons and posting them on YouTube, which people were upset at because originally we were just posting sermons and expecting people to kind of do their own worship with their families or however they could. And then they said, well, I'm a 85-year-old lady in a nursing home. I don't have anyone to lead singing. I don't have anyone to serve me the Lord's Supper or to pray, with me or whatever. So we started incorporating those things into the videos. But now we're back meeting. I don't know for how much longer because COVID cases are going up. Yeah. Of course, testing is going up, and we're not going to talk about the logistics of all that. But I know there have been several congregations in our general area who have had to shut back down because there's cases that are getting in their congregations. So, with all that, what has changed with you? What stayed the same? Walk us through your recording process and what you post, and tell us where we can find your stuff too.
So I think most ministers, weirdly enough, we've lost the ability to visit.
Mm-hmm.
You can't go to nursing homes. You can't go to hospitals.
Man, that's been hard.
It's been difficult.
That's been hard.
So with that, some people would think, oh, well, you have a lot more time for study or a lot more time, for lesson prep and things. But all you're doing really is you're taking out the visiting for now, and you're putting in all of the recording and all of the video editing and then the time to post it.
People do not realize how long it takes to record. I don't know about you, but we need a bloopers reel here because you'll start going and you'll get 90% there and something will happen and you have to start all over. And editing takes forever. Yes. And how long are your videos usually? So
when it's just me, and so my videos are typically 30 to 40 minutes, roughly. Our Sunday videos are typically closer to an hour, 45 to an hour. And I'm in charge of editing, posting Sunday night and Wednesday night videos. The other minister, his wife had been recording his lessons, and so we were kind of piecing things together for a presentation for a worship time, and she would piece that together and then post it. So but she would send me the link to post to YouTube. So it's usually about 30 to 40 minutes of my videos.
Okay. So my point with all this, for those of you listening who are thinking, maybe I want to start a YouTube channel, maybe I want to start a podcast and put out devotional thoughts or even scholarly stuff. I've got like 4 divisions of Coffee in Christ. I've got Coffee in Christ that does devotional stuff, Coffee in Christ that does Bible classes, Coffee in Christ that does scholarly stuff, and then this podcast. Dude, it takes forever to upload a video. I'm not talking about editing. Like, editing takes forever. But for me, because mine are somewhere between usually 25 minutes to an hour, depending on what the format is, it takes, like, I remember we just got internet at our house, because Kayla and I just bought a house a couple of months ago.
Okay.
We just got internet there. We're out in the middle of nowhere. We have good internet. I was uploading a video that was 20 minutes long, which if I uploaded it here would take, I don't know, 30, 40 minutes, something like that, which is a long time, but, if I'm here working, I can do other stuff while it's uploading. Right. It's not that bad. I did it at home, because just to be honest with you, I forgot to upload it. And it took 3 hours to upload a 20-minute video. It was horrible. And I don't know about your software, because I don't have any professional software, but if the screen on this computer goes black, it ends it, and you have to start all over again. It's so frustrating.
Yeah. Well, I have I'm kind of the opposite. If I try to upload it at the church office, it could take close to an hour. At our house, we don't have cable anymore, so with my wife working from home, we have opted for a higher internet package. So I can actually upload the videos. My 30 to 40 minute video, I can have uploaded in 20 minutes tops. And now that is editing the video and then uploading it. Actually, uploading it's usually done in less than 10.
Yeah.
But I edit in iMovie.
I do too. Yeah.
And then export it to my desktop and then upload.
Right. So that's exactly what I do.
That editing and then exporting process is probably close to 10 minutes, but uploading it once it's exported takes 7 to 10 minutes when I'm home.
Yeah.
When I'm at the office, it takes longer. And the other day, I recorded on a Sunday, and I am now teaching our Sunday Bible class through Zoom, and I was teaching at 4, so I had everything done at like 2, and I was trying to post it, and iMovie wouldn't work. It would get to exporting the file to a certain point, and then it would say it failed. Certain point failed. I ended up restarting my whole computer, and then it worked. But I spent an hour trying to figure out why it was doing all that.
Yeah.
And so it is a process.
Yeah.
Doing all of that.
Well, see, with all that's going on right now, ministry has clearly changed.
Yeah.
I mean, we can agree ministry's changed. We've gone to making phone calls. Obviously we can't go visit anybody. So we try to call people, keep up with everyone, and therein, back to our conversation of social media, that's really how you keep up with people.
Yeah.
Like, this is one of my biggest pet peeves with culture in general, but no one will call you or text you and tell you that they've been in the hospital.
No.
But they'll post about it on social media.
Yeah.
And then complain that you didn't know about it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and people do that all the time. All right, one last question for you, and we'll wrap up. We've said so much today about how our week goes, about people's general perceptions of what we do, how things have changed. We've kind of become more on the technological side. So your week as it exists, how things go for you, and being a new father and dealing with all the juggles that life throws your way, when it comes to time management, whether it be for yourself or somebody else, what's your biggest time management pet peeve?
Oh, man.
I'll tell you mine while you're thinking of one.
Okay.
My biggest time management pet peeve is that when people pull by the church building and they don't see my truck, they don't think I'm working.
That's mine. That one. So here's what I've started doing for me, and I got this idea from Chad Landman. And by the way, I know I just thought of this. You asked where they could find our content. I'll say that at the end of this. But I follow a lot of Chad Landman's content. He does a lot of stuff with technology and all those kind of things. But I don't know if you've heard of the Field Notes notebooks. They're little tiny notebooks you can put in your pocket.
Yep.
A lot of people use them for different things. I use it to keep track of my hours. Now, I don't necessarily do that. My elders don't ask me to do that. Mm-hmm. But I do that so that when someone says something, I can, in a loving way, show them this is what I was doing.
I did that.
Where I've been.
I did that when I first came part-time, and I brought my notebook to my first elders meeting because I wanted to prove to them, hey, this is what I'm doing. And one of our elders, who's no longer an elder, but he was one of our elders at the time, and he said, Joshua, if you bring that in here again, we're going to throw it in the trash.
Yeah.
We hired you. We trust you.
Yeah.
So you do your thing. And that meant a lot to me because I had just come from an internship where I, every week, had to turn in a log for school purposes, so I was in the habit of doing it. But that did mean a lot to me. But, like, with COVID, how things have changed, I'm a morning person. You talked earlier about being a night owl, and I'm a morning person. Like, I get all of my work done in the morning. Well, I usually get up around 4:30, 5 o'clock. And if my wife is working, she has to get up around 5 too, so she can get to her job, by the time that she needs to. And so I'll just leave with her. I mean, there's no sense in me being there by myself if I'm up and ready and everything.
Yeah.
So I've been getting to the church building around 6 o'clock. And so instead of working from 8 to 2, I work from 6 to noon. And it's the same amount of hours.
Yeah.
And if somebody needs me, they've got my phone number.
Right.
They can always call or whatever.
That noon part, as ministers, we know that it's I'm not technically at the office, but I'm always available type of thing.
Yeah. See, this is the thing about hours. You have them for your convenience, not for anybody else's. So if we're always on call, it's almost like we are a firefighter that never gets, the days off.
Right.
We are always on call. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No. It's a little different now, with people, you can't go, like we said, not being able to go to the hospitals, things like that.
Right.
But you're still always on call. And, I mentioned those Field Notes notebooks. And one, my elders never asked to see those. But one reason I did it too was to it was kind of accountability for myself. Like, when I look at them, I can say, okay, Monday, and I don't go through and 10, 15 bathroom break. Like, I'm not crazy about it, but I'll 8 or 9 to 10 class prep. 10 to 11 read this book or something like that. This time was my lunch, and I'll go back and look at Monday and be like, what did I actually get done Monday?
Mm-hmm.
What did I? And so it really is for me to kind of go back to more than for other people, so I can say, man, I didn't get anything done yesterday that I really needed to get done.
Yeah.
What was I doing? And I can kind of make changes and adapt to be more productive. So it's really for me in a way. But with that now, I would do my visiting every Tuesday, and I would try to be done with what I need to be done with by lunch on Tuesday. I'd go to lunch, and then I would try to go visit. Well, if we didn't have a hospital visit, I would go visit some of our older members, or younger, even some members that might not be older but are retired or work from home, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so now that I don't have that because of COVID, now I'm trying to fill that with other things that are still productive. But those Field Notes, just kind of want to throw that in there too. If you're someone that struggles with time management, maybe that's something to think about.
Yeah.
Because I started doing that, and it's helped me a lot to just make sure stay focused.
Mm-hmm.
Don't allow yourself to get too distracted.
Yeah.
But when people look and say, oh, his truck's not at the building. He's not working today. What's he doing? We pay him to be at the office. Like all those kind of things.
Yeah.
I've had people that have said things to me before, and I'm like, well, I keep my office hours. I can show you. They never want to see.
Right.
They never want to see it.
Yeah.
They just want to throw a complaint out.
Yeah.
That's just really what it comes down to.
All right. Well, we've been talking for a long time about these what time management is like in ministry. Give us. You just gave a really good one with the field notes, but give us one. If you could have one time management tip to leave our audience with, what would it be?
This is one I heard. I can't remember who said it. Maybe Adam Fawn, or I don't know. I don't remember. I think it was Preachers in Training podcast, maybe. But I heard this from a minister somewhere, and I've heard it from multiple ministers since. But it's I would say there are 3 pieces to a day. You have morning, afternoon, and evening. Give the church 2 of them, and give your family the other. And whatever 2 works best for you and your elders agree with it and you decide to give to the church, give to the church. If you have to put your phone on Do Not Disturb, our phones are interesting. If someone's in your favorites list, at least on an iPhone, and they try to call you more than once, it rings, You can set now, I think, certain guidelines on who cannot disturb you. But whatever you need to do, when you're studying, put those things away and study. When you say, okay, I'm going to give the church morning and afternoon, family gets the evening time. Whatever time the church gets, give them that time. And then whatever time your family's supposed to get, give them that time. Don't go home from the office and spend your time at home working on what you should have gotten done in the office because you're hurting your family. Yeah. And we make comments about business things and we joke about that, but the reality is you are an employee here. Yes. And there are business aspects to that and business expectations to that. And that doesn't take away from the spiritual, ramifications of things if you don't do your job. But it's important to be the type of employee you need to be for the congregation, the type of minister, but it's also equally, maybe more important, to be the type of Christian father you are one day to your children, the husband you're supposed to be to your wife, as the spiritual leader of your home. So leave your home, and when you're home, be home. Yep. When you're at work, be in the focus of being at work and studying. And that's what I try to do now. Youth ministry was different. It was challenging because during the summer, it flipped. But during the summer, I just moved one of the times I would give the church to evening. So the time for my family was not the evening time. It was another time because we had all these events at night. Yeah. So, pick 2.
You also didn't have children then.
No, did not. Yeah. But pick 2, give those 2 to the church, and really give them to the church. Yeah. And
just to add to that, flexibility is key in ministry. Yes. Yeah. So be flexible. I keep a list. I have like 4 lists. I have one on my phone, one here on paper. I have a whiteboard on my refrigerator at home, and all of them are to-do lists. But the one on the refrigerator is my home to-do list. The one here is my work to-do list. And one on my phone is usually stuff that I have to do at some point during the week. Yeah. So I keep those to-do lists. But you've got to stay flexible because the minute you plan something rigidly, something will happen.
Don't be upset when your schedule changes. Right. Don't think it's thrown out the window. Just adapt. Right. When I first got in ministry, a good minister friend of mine told me, he's like, don't be so rigid with your schedule that you're not flexible. He's like, because things will come up. Absolutely. But at the same time, for me, I had to make sure that I didn't take that as don't schedule. Don't make have a plan. Say that you want your Bible class for Sunday done by Wednesday. Yep. Say that you want your sermon done by Thursday. Have a plan and then put the steps in place to meet the plan. And let's say your step on Monday was this, but you had to, take this call and go do this thing or run this errand for the church. You had to do this, and it took away from completing it. Just move the step to another day, but get that step done still. Be flexible. Don't be too rigid, but at the same time, don't be so loose that you don't have guidance, because that's when I think when you are given too much time, it's easy to waste time. As weird as that sounds. Absolutely. If you're given 8 hours in an office, and you try to accomplish that, and you don't have a plan, it's very easy to get some things done and be productive in 3 or 4 hours, and then
Right.
look at the other 3 or 4 hours as playtime.
Yes.
As social media, YouTube, Netflix, whatever. Be flexible. Don't be too rigid, but have some type of structure to help you. I love that idea of the multiple checklists. I use the Things app. And I do the same thing, but I do it all on my phone. But I have family, work, and miscellaneous kind of thing. And so similar, but I actually really like the idea of leaving your work one at the office, one at home for at home. And that kind of helps you. I think that's a really
See, I like
idea.
physical lists because there's nothing that's better to me than taking a pen and scratching something off. Like, I love it.
I'm with you on that too. I like physical too.
All right, one last thing.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be time management related.
Okay.
Leave us with some life advice.
Oh, man.
I mean, I know the whole podcast has been you giving us life advice, but any good life advice for us?
I would say, man.
Did I catch you off guard?
Yeah, but let's see. Some things that have been on my heart lately because of everything that's going on, without getting too much into everything that's going on. You are here to be a servant.
Amen.
A servant to Jesus first and foremost. But ultimately, because of that servanthood to Jesus, you are here to be a servant to other people. The Bible tells us the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve. And when you look at the humility in him going and washing the feet of Judas, of Peter, we see the feet washing happening, and we talk about it in John 13. But 2 of the people were 2 that were going to deny him.
Just a few hours later.
Exactly.
A few people put that story in with the Last Supper.
Yeah.
And it is. It's the beginning of the upper room.
Yeah.
So.
And so when you look at stories like that, when you go to Paul and things that he says in 1 Corinthians 8 and 9, when it's this idea of, I try to be all things to all people because I'm a servant to people. With everything that's going on, my life advice right now is to remember you're a servant. And make sure the decisions that you make, I'm all for freedoms and everything, but make sure that the decisions you make, you're making for the right reasons, and you're not being a stumbling block to other people.
Yep.
That would be my advice. That is very applicable now, but I feel like it's life advice. It's applicable all the time.
Oh, sure.
You're a servant. Remember that, and humbly serve every day.
Yep. 2 things. Wash your hands and say your prayers because germs and Jesus are everywhere.
That's right.
And always give 100% unless you're giving blood.
There you go.
Thank you, Cody, for being with us. We'll have another one come August, Lord willing. And hope y'all enjoyed this. Be sure to like and subscribe on Anchor Podcast and YouTube and on Facebook under Coffee and Christ. We love y'all. Hope y'all have a good day.